How are you feeling after 1 month of basketball, 1 month of Celtics basketball? What is the temperature check with this team right now?
Me personally, the temperature check is like 100 degrees, dude. Like, I'm really bullish on this team. The only concern I have is do not run into, and this is more of a joke than it is real, but at the same time, I genuinely have concerns about this. Do not run into the Orlando Magic in the first or second round. Otherwise, it's going to be a really, really
Man,
tough
they
explanation
love
in the
playing you
offseason.
guys.
It's just, it's like, everyone says that Boston kind of just has Philadelphia's number, right? They know how to guard Embiid. They know how to
Right.
get him away from his spots and so forth. I feel like Orlando has that with Boston, and they follow that Miami Heat blueprint of just punching you in the face and really getting physical and being right up in your grill. The Celtics just really struggle to respond. So I am very bullish, but I do have concerns. Miami, now Orlando, there are teams out there that have a blueprint on how to beat this team.
Mm-hmm. I've got a question. I'm curious. So, kind of just given the Kristaps Porzingis sort of coverage crossover, if you will, I'm curious. I know a lot of people kind of raised question about, oh, Porzingis, had this problem being number 2 to Luka, wherever you stand on that, and now he's with Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Drew Holiday, and people were kind of building a bit of a narrative there. I guess you watching them up close, where do you sort of sit on how he has adjusted to this new environment and how he's getting along with those guys?
Yeah, so for me, all we can do is take what the players say at face value, right? We need to at least, until they give you a reason not to believe them, that you believe them. And everything he's said so far has been, he loves being here. He's never had the type of spacing that he's playing with now. Defenses really struggle to send doubles at him because who are you doubling off from? So he does sound really happy to be there. The way Missoula's got the team playing at the moment is, Porzingis might be option 2 in the first quarter, and then depending on how defense is set up, maybe he becomes your primary guy in the second and third. Maybe he's your 4th option in games where the matchup doesn't suit. I think he has the freedom to scale his production wherever it needs to go in that game. And because of that, I think it's keeping everybody happy because everybody has a chance to kind of shine a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the thing that, to your point about him maybe being option number 2, that pops up almost immediately when you see him. I love the playmaking between him and Jaylen Brown, just like the backdoor cuts, the off-ball cutting. It's been so nice to see Jaylen Brown being just this. He's feasting as an off-ball cutter in a lot of ways. I don't think that Brown has had like the greatest season yet compared to the last couple of years. I think it's taken a little bit for him to get adjusted. How have you felt Brown kind of adjusting to this new role of maybe being option 2A, 2B in this scenario with Porzingis?
It's been tough and it's been great at the same time, right? So last season, I caught a lot of heat. I wrote an article saying that Jaylen Brown's role should be quote unquote a play finisher. Don't take the creation away from him and allow him to just become a primary scorer, whether that's off slashing, backdoor cuts, spot ups, whatever. And I think that what we're seeing now is
for that.
Oh man, so much, like to the point where I actually migrated away from Twitter for months. Horrible DMs, like it went on for weeks. It was crazy. I don't know why either. It was a very fair article. I think we're seeing more of that now. I think we're seeing more of that from him now, where he is more in this play finishing role, for a lack of a better term. We are seeing some creation from him with the last few games. One of Jaylen Brown's biggest issues for me is his court vision is very tunnel focused. It's him, the rim, and if there's any other players around there, he's going to get an assist, right? But it's always one pass away. You're never going to see him really make that 2-3 passes away kind of play. So what we're seeing now is because of the spacing that's around him and the 2-man game that's developing between him and Porzingis, his assist to turnover ratio is slowly climbing because he's got easier 1 pass away options. And we saw that if you watched the Hawks game last night, there was a really good example. The Hawks, they went into a pick and roll. The Hawks showed Then they went into a second pick and roll. The Hawks blitzed, so he kicked out, got the ball back, and drove. And when he drove, they collapsed 4 onto JB, and he kind of faked the layup and then just kind of dished it off to the corner for Sam Hauser, which I'm pretty sure was like only the. Yeah, I've got the numbers in front of me. It was only his 4th assist to Sam Hauser all season for like why he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Why are you not kicking it out to this dude? But I think he's growing. I think we're seeing the best version of Jaylen Brown, and I think that the questions around his playmaking and his processing speed is slightly they're being answered, but not in the way we expected them to be answered. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And kind of, I guess, expanding on that. Obviously, a lot of people talk about Jaylen Brown and the Kristaps Porzingis connection and how that's opened things up. But something that I kind of want to get your perspective on is, and it sort of builds on, I guess, the first question that I'd had, but playing with Drew Holiday and Derek White, and obviously Derek White is not new to the scene, but having this elevated backcourt and just even more dimensions on offense, how do you feel like that has really elevated Jaylen Brown specifically, and also kind of sets things up for continuity potential, if you will, and kind of where they could head long term and grow as a unit?
Yeah, so for Jaylen, it's taken away defensively first, because this is a very defensive-minded backcourt. When you look at Drew, you look at Derek White. Jaylen Brown has always been a defender. How can I put, like a theoretical defender, right? In theory, he should be an elite guy. He's got the athleticism, the length, the fast twitch muscles. He moves his feet well, can rotate well, but he falls to sleep a lot. Like, there's no other way to. You can't lie and say he's a good defender. He's okay. What's happening now is he's not being asked to be a point of attack guy anymore. He's a rotational. He's like, I like to call them system defenders. Like he's tasked with being a wing stopper. Sometimes he'll operate in switches and he can stay in front of guys. He's strong enough to guard up, guard down, fast enough to guard down. So that the new backcourt pairing has allowed him to kind of play a less featured role defensively, which is then allowing him to leak out on rebounds and be that kind of transition threat that he really should have been throughout most of his career. And then on offense, again, it's more being a play finisher. The ball's being taken out of his hands in terms of initial creation. Drew's creating. Jayson Tatum's ability to process out of double teams has become exceptional. And then Brown's just there to be that rip-through guy. So I feel like the collectiveness of like Brown, Tatum, Holiday, Tatum, and White, they're elevating Brown just by putting him in positions to just do what he does well, rather than do what was needed of him.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think there's it's funny because we're maybe seeing Jaylen Brown play the role that he's supposed to in this league. Yeah. But I think that might offend some people because they're like, well, that maybe limits his ceiling as a player because you become a play finisher. And I'm actually having the same discussion with Raptors fans about OG Anunoby right now, because OG Anunoby, he wants the creation, right? He wants the on-ball reps, but actually the way to maximize him is maybe not giving him those creation and on-ball reps. It's maximizing his catches. Like, hey, off a spot-up shot, like he's elite as a spot-up shooter. I'm assuming the same thing applies to Jaylen Brown in the way that he's such a great off-ball mover on offense, a cutter, a guy who can, like you said, be a play finisher for you. And I think defensively, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned he falls asleep off ball. There in that Raptors game, there were multiple possessions where it was just like, oh, Pascal Siakam double team. They help from maybe the low man helps, and then it's Jaylen Brown that's kind of stuck trying to split the difference on the weak side. Yeah. And they took advantage of that a lot of times. And it's just funny to see. Maybe this is the Jaylen Brown that we want. Like, long term in the playoffs, in the postseason, him playing this specific role is what is actually going to be ideal for him moving forward. Still is second in usage among the Celtics. Like, Tatum is at 30% on the year. Jaylen Brown is at 27%. Everybody else is 22 and under. Like, he's still getting the reps, the touches that he necessarily needs. Like, all that stuff is still there, but just in terms of role definition, there's a little bit clearer of a role for where Jaylen Brown is. Wanted to ask you about Jayson Tatum, who you mentioned the double teams. I think part of that is just how elite he's become as a post player. High post area has been absolutely dominating in that end. He's probably near the top of the league. Last time I checked, he was near the top of the league when it came to efficiency in the post. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's maybe him adding some size, adding some strength? What has made him such a good post player this season for the Celtics?
I don't think,
it's the added space also, just another added.
I think the space has helped. They're running more actions to get him to the space. They're running like one of their primary ATOs is just a slice screen on the wing just to get him like going into the post. But I don't think it's that he's become a good post player this year. I think he's just featuring that part of his game more this year. Like there's been seasons where Celtics fans are like, man, Tatum's really good in the post. Why are we not putting him in the post more? Why isn't he? Why is he settling for after dribble pull up threes? And that's been an issue for Tatum, right? Like as a catch and shoot threat on the perimeter, he's an elite shooter. As an off the dribble shooter, he's bad. So and that's only on the perimeter. But putting him into the post where he can face up and beat you off the dribble and drive, and he's strong enough to kind of dislodge you or take the contact on the drive. His mid-range jumper has always been an above average jump shot, and then over the years he's refined that, found his spots where he likes to get to, and now it's a really high level mid-range jumper. And when you start putting that together and then you add the scoring gravity in where he can create out of that post up because he has the court vision, the processing speed, everything kind of like over the years has stacked up bit by bit on top. And now Sam Cassell's came into the team, and Cassell gave a really good interview. I don't remember who it was with, otherwise I would credit them. But Cassell was like, I kind of said to Tatum, if you want to evolve your game, this is kind of the next step for you, is learning how to be that post presence, learning how to give, if you're playing 5 out and then you run an action to get Tatum into the post, you still got 4 options spacing the floor for you. Some off-ball actions are happening. Somebody's cutting. 2 are watching you. So, it's, see ball, see man. And everyone's seeing ball, but no one's seeing who's cutting because everyone's like, damn, Jayson Tatum's got the ball in the post. And it's just creating extra opportunities for him. I just think that it was a natural progression for his game, and he's just being allowed to explore that progression and kind of build on that.
Follow hosts at Just S. Barahini on all socials and at The Lauren Gunn on Twitter. The Objective Basketball Podcast, delivering the NBA to you like no other.